Welcome to Salvage, a podcast for conversations with artists about the repurposed materials they use in their art practice. Please enjoy my conversation with Judy Villett. Judy says, "The world around us is colorful and filled with texture. I love taking those elements from nature and the patterns of our everyday living and creating landscapes in fabric and thread." Judy is an art quilter, and her work combines many techniques, beginning with commercial prints, her own digital photographs printed on fabric, or hand-dyed fabrics. She may stencil, paint, embellish, piece, or applique these, and then finally machine quilt them. We started our conversation talking about Judy's installation, the Jellyfish Project, which utilizes antique doilies from her family stash and more. Thank you so much for joining me, Judy. I really appreciate it. And, this is on video and audio so for those listening, behind Judy is exactly the reason why I asked her to join me. Your jellyfish installation. That's it's very, very cool. And that is the reason why I wanted to talk to you, because that part of your art practice aligns with the reason for this podcast. But I'd rather start at the very beginning, if you don't mind.
Great.
Could you tell me about your artist journey?
I have been an artist since I was born, I think, and studied fine art for a while at university, and then went into textiles. And at that time, it was kind of a radical choice of materials.
Oh,
And I have been teaching quilt-related, design-related classes for 40 years.
oh, wow.
And I then retired from teaching. And I now spend my time in a fantastic studio
Oh,
and creating art that just makes me so happy. Um, so- and I found that when I retired from teaching, which was just before COVID, I found
excellent timing.
yeah, it was amazing. I decided well, something just pushed me into environmental. I'm a tree lover. The whole concept of trees and how important they are has been a big part of my work. But I then saw a TV show by a wonderful environmentalist here in BC called David Suzuki,
Mhm.
and the program was an hour, and it was so graphic. It was about the proliferation of jellyfish under the trash mats that are forming in the Pacific
Oh,
around,
wow.
around the ocean, the Sea of Japan particularly. But these mats are huge, and I'm sure by now, that was 5 years ago, I think, and
Oh,
so by
wow.
now they'll be huge. And for some reason, that program just caught me in my heart. And I started to think, what can I do as an artist, as a textile artist, to kind of push this concept that we're going to have to do something about this.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
So let me take you back a little bit further, though, first. So when you studied art at university, what did you study?
I was doing photography, silk screening, a lot of drawing and painting.
Oh,
So
okay.
I just got a broad taste and then dropped out
Oh,
of the formal world
was
and
that when
started
you
taking
discovered?
workshops.
Oh, that's when you discovered textiles? You started taking
Uh,
workshops instead?
yeah, I knew that I loved textiles. I sewed all of my clothes from a young age, and
Oh, cool.
was very comfortable with the sewing machine and with fabric. And I could see I had a huge interest in quilting from my family. My great grandmothers, my great aunts, all of my relatives had been quilters.
Oh, wow.
And so I helped with that. It's kind of a domestic task, but it was still a social event and quite a joy. Although as children we had to card the wool by hand, and
Oh
you
my
know
goodness.
it wasn't exactly a fun job.
No, but what an experience.
It
Wow.
was. Yeah, it was like I lived through the history of quilting in North America.
Wow, that's exciting, actually.
Yeah,
I hope
it
you
was
write a book about that because my goodness, living through the history of such an art practice that started off as a utilitarian
right. And it was in my
practice.
family. Yes.
Uh,
We used old men's clothing, the wool.
mm,
Living in the foothills of Alberta, Canada,
oh,
there is a deep, cold winter. And so those quilts were essential. And the warmer, the better, and the heavier, the better. But we call them toe benders. And a lot of those quilts are still in my possession or in the family's possession, but of course, not used as much as they once were.
right. Oh, but that's a wonderful treasure to have.
It is, yeah.
Oh, that's
I
a
also was part of the beginning of quilting as an art form, and my heroes at that time were Jean Ray Laurie and Michael James.
Mhm.
And they had the first books on quilting, which I
Yeah.
found fascinating and just went crazy for art quilting. But meanwhile, I was teaching the basics of quilting, piecing, applique,
Oh, it's
hand quilting.
traditional.
Yes, very
Uh-huh.
traditional start. Although I moved right into design right away. I was doing full-size bed quilts of clouds.
Oh,
So yeah,
cool.
it was quite unusual. And I had some shows in galleries before people even realized that a person could do that. So
That's
I
so cool.
felt, yeah, it was a part of that growing time. And since then, I've just followed, I've taken workshops and I've taught at international conventions and so
Mhm.
on. And my hero for many years is Nancy Crow, who's a
Of course.
wonderful colorist. So
Yes.
and I taught color and design for many years, so it's dear to my heart. It's funny to see me now working in this non-colored world of
Yes.
jellyfish because, but I should say that there could be a little color. We put a wonderful light bulb at the bottom of the installation, and it changed. It showed at night, and
Oh.
the you could see the installation through a big window, corner window,
Mhm.
and the light was shining up, and it looked like water. It was
Oh, that sounds
turquoise.
fabulous.
Yeah, it really added an interesting depth to the
Oh, very cool. But so you saw that documentary and it really affected you.
Yes, it
And what prompted you to make work about it though? Like what was the impetus there? Like what were you thinking?
there was a grant here to
Oh.
work to work with garbage. We could go to the recycling center, the artist that was secured the grant, and go through that garbage and make something with it, artistic, and involve the public. And I love involving the public. That appeals to me. I like talking to people and sharing my ideas. So
Uh-huh.
I thought, oh, that's perfect. So I prepared an application. I made a maquette of the plastic, the trash floating above, and then I made a few jellyfish, as you see behind me, with the doilies and the streamers that I tied there for their tentacles. And I did not get the grant,
Oh.
but undaunted. 2 years later, I had collected a tremendous amount of the kind of trash that I really wanted, and that is clear and translucent and white. And I didn't want color. I thought, oh no, I don't want to advertise anybody. I'm not going to put any labels,
Mhm.
and so I stayed away from color. At the same time, I was collecting colored plastics. I can't resist. They're everywhere, as you know, and watching your blog as well, or your entry on social media. And I started making abstract shapes with those kinds of plastic.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah, and
Oh, yeah.
I love the translucency
I
of
know. That's what I love about it too. I love layering all the different translucencies and getting different color variations. That's the fun
definitely.
of it.
So
Oh,
that's a whole different world. But I
yeah.
have to show you, I'm just going to move my camera over to the trash collection.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
That's a small piece. It's 2 feet by 7 feet, and that's what hung in the window. It was just the right size
So
built
you
for it.
hung so you glued or stitched together these panels?
Ah, that's a good question. I
What
actually stitched. I did a layer over a heavy grid wall. So this is
Ah,
one of the standing grid walls, but of course I'm going to hang it. Uh,
uh-huh,
and I had to cover the grid. I didn't want the grid showing, so
uh-huh,
I ended up stitching plastics and a bit of lace because lace is a nice material, and I had some samples from a business that went out, and all kinds of plastic then glued on top. So I started by
ah,
stitching, and
okay,
in some places I left little openings because I wanted the light to come through like it might
uh-huh,
on the ocean, and I wanted the lights to be above this huge
okay.
plastic mass.
So this plastic mass is stitched onto one of those metal grids with legs. Is that what I'm understanding?
It's a grid wall, no legs. I didn't
Right, but
the
it's
legs.
so it could be hung from the ceiling.
Right. I
Oh.
used plastic to hang it. I used those
I know,
those,
you can't get away from it.
I think they're called zap straps,
Oh,
and
okay.
I made like a little chain to hang
Uh-huh,
from the 4 corners, and
okay,
that worked very well because I wasn't quite sure how much space I would have in the
right.
gallery.
And how
And
many
then
of those panels did you make?
I made just 1. So
Oh,
it
okay,
was one big window, in the front part of their gallery, and it was for that installation at the BC Craft Council.
okay. So did
And
you hang it oh, then you hung it from one side. It was I see, I was imagining it was hanging on the ceiling.
it was.
Is it hanging horizontal?
Yes,
Vertical?
that way.
That way,
Horizontally,
horizontal,
yes.
okay.
Yeah,
So and then the jellyfish were suspended beneath it.
they were, and that's great because the grid is there for me to clip the jellyfish onto. I use these little alligator clips, and
Ah,
fish line, again, plastic.
yes.
Now, some of them are nylon,
Uh-huh.
so but, it's so
Oh,
odd
plastic,
because
yeah,
yes, and
yeah,
also the stiffening material, the gack, that I use
to
to
glue,
stiffen these is
yeah.
also actually a plastic.
Right, yeah, yeah.
So
You know, a
it's,
lot of people who use glues and acrylic paint don't even really think about it, but that's basically liquid plastic.
it is,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah. So
So
a lot
what
of
made
artists
you
are
right? Um, so what made you decide on the doilies for your jellyfish?
again, it's part of my heritage. I had
Okay.
I had doilies. I'm a family collector of the antiques, textile, department.
Oh.
So I had a lot from my own family, and I thought these are beautiful. I don't know quite what triggered my concept to
Mhm.
make them into bowl shapes, but I use my own domestic bowls as shapes. I thought at first that I'd make huge ones,
Oh,
but I find that the biggest is about a foot, and then they start to collapse a little bit.
oh.
So I can't, I unless I use a very heavy stiffener, I'm
Mhm,
not going to go into bigger shapes. They'll stay, and that's fine because there's tons of doilies that are this shape.
mhm.
They're very available. I get them secondhand stores and so on if I need more. I have many friends that offer me boxes of family
Yeah.
doilies. They're not that popular anymore.
Nope, it's a fashion statement that does not happen anymore, or a style
Right.
statement.
But look how incredibly rich and they're sort of enticing and they're sort of beautiful. They're like
They
a
are beautiful.
frosted snowflake or something. The patterns are just intriguing. And I wanted to pull people in
Yep.
to this talk about plastic by using this beauty. So, and so therefore I used quite a bit of silk um, uh, streamers. I got them
Well,
at
that's
the,
why I was gonna ask, what are all the tentacles made from? I see little bits of lace,
yes,
but the
there's
rest are streamers?
incredible.
Silk streamers?
They're silk. I bought them at the silk weaving studio,
Oh,
so they're made to be woven into textiles, I suppose. And I buy them by big chunks, like this skein, I think they're
okay,
called.
big skeins, uh-huh.
Oh, yeah. I just came back from a road trip to San Francisco, so I stopped in a lot of recycling stores, one in Eugene, Oregon, and
Hmm.
one in Berkeley, and I found all kinds of old textile piping, interesting ribbons that
Oh,
were old, which I really like because these doilies are old, and some of them are starting to yellow a little bit. And I'd like to incorporate that delicate aging process in here
yeah.
too.
No, I love that. I used to work with vintage lace quite a bit, and I loved the variations in the yellowing or even browning of these textiles and use that as a color in
Yes,
in the art because it's, the variations, the gradations are wonderful.
it's very strong. If you can
Yeah.
see this one, it's quite yellow.
Yeah,
It's
it looks quite yellow on the screen.
and I've added accents that echo that. So
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
underneath they have little stomachs.
Oh, little stomachs even, okay, and what are the little stomachs made from?
This one is made from some kind of a doily. Uh, I'm not sure. Somebody told me it was needle lace, and somebody said it's knitted. And I don't do any of that. I'm not a crocheter or
Uh-huh.
knitter, and I have no idea really what it
Oh.
is. But
So,
it's
did you, research the actual jellyfish structure before
yes,
you made these?
yes. They
Oh.
have a stomach, and they actually eat stuff.
Oh,
They
okay.
eat, they eat plankton and
Oh,
small fish.
oh,
And of course, that is impacting the food chain for humans.
yeah.
Very much so it was at the time around Japan. And the fishermen were desperate to get rid of these jellyfish. So they tried to use electrical cables in the water to fry
Oh.
them to death, but
Oh my
that
god.
it backfired badly for the fishermen and the dead jellyfish because as soon as they are threatened, they released hundreds of babies.
Oh
So
my
instead
gosh.
of narrowing the population, it expanded it considerably.
Oh, wow.
That's part of the story. It's a fascinating story to me. And
Yeah.
yes, I put little pieces of fish inside. Some have the little gray bodies. You can kind of see uh,
Uh-huh.
a little bit of the gray fish, and then bits of plastic because I thought a jellyfish probably doesn't know the difference between
Right. Well,
floating piece of plastic and a little fish.
right, if a turtle can eat a piece of plastic, why couldn't a jellyfish? Right,
Absolutely. I think a turtle has a bigger brain than a jellyfish, which has that
right,
much.
right.
None.
Wow.
So yes, there's and that was so cool because people I sat with the show in the window. I had a little chair and table set up, and I could see people just intrigued by
Mhm.
the jellyfish. I had a fan blowing all the tentacles just gently
Oh,
moving
nice.
them, and the movement and the beauty and the grace of these things drew people right in, and they just came right in, looked at the jellyfish, and started talking to
Mhm.
me. So I had wonderful conversations. And then under the jellyfish on the floor, I had a lot of my magazine clippings, which I've been saving for years.
Oh,
This
about
last five
plastic
years.
problems,
Yeah,
single-use
yeah,
plastic.
and solutions. I have
Yeah,
some solutions as
yes.
well.
Not many, but yes.
That's
So that was
right.
on the floor.
Yeah, just, below the installation, it was
Okay,
part of it, and then I could point out the seriousness, and of course, most people have read about it or heard about it.
yeah.
It's not a mystery to most people, but then I would get them to look up at this floating, canopy above us, and
Uh-huh.
just imagine that we're in the ocean, we're down there at the height of the jellyfish, looking them in the eye if they had eyes. So it led to some wonderful stories, and one of them was a woman who lived out on one of the islands, this one of the San Juan Islands, and she said, "We don't call them jellyfish. They really are not fish, obviously.
Right.
So they call them sea jellies," which
See,
I thought was just
interesting.
charming, just so
Yeah.
sweet, you know? It makes
Oh,
them quite, attractive.
well, and they
And it
are, even though they
they're
might be some of them
beautiful.
might be deadly.
That's right. If you've ever been stung, they're not charming anymore.
Not particularly, wow.
No. So we got and I have a heap of material collected. I'm ready to make a second panel, and I'll make it the same size, which is 2 feet by 7 feet. And then I'll have a bigger mass
Uh-huh.
of garbage, because really that is the focus of the
Right.
piece.
How
It's
many jellyfish did you make?
I have 13, I
Oh,
think, at
okay.
the moment.
Uh-huh.
Uh, but I have many more in process, and I have all kinds of new streamers now that I went on my shopping spree.
So, do you have a place for the new expanded installation?
No, I don't. I intend to put the word out to the wonderful aquarium that we have here in Vancouver.
Oh,
They
yeah.
have sponsored other artists that are talking about plastics in the ocean. They're
Mhm.
very supportive, and that's a great opportunity because so many people go through there. So
Yeah.
I think with the text to explain, I won't be able to sit with them,
Right.
but that would be a good location. So I haven't talked to them yet.
Mhm.
And there's several environmental businesses here, and I'm thinking perhaps they might know of a place or put it in their offices. But I'd really love to have it in the public eye so that it's permanently installed
Oh,
somewhere.
definitely. Oh, yeah. No, I think, the Marine Center would definitely be a great place to start. Even if it's a temporary installation there, still,
That's right.
it would
Yes,
it would be worth it.
much better than stored away in my studio.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, I
Gotta
definitely have
get that
plans.
stuff out there so people can see and respond to it.
That's right.
That's really key.
And I'm making a quilt, a plastic quilt out of all of these. I'm putting all my articles into little plastic envelopes, kind of,
Uh-huh.
and I'm going to stitch those all together. I may incorporate the abstract plastics into that, and I'd love that to be hanging so that it's at eye level
Right.
along with the installation.
Well, that you can submit to Quilt National, you know.
Oh, yes. Oh, I
Yes.
didn't think about that. That's a good idea.
I think their deadline is coming right up, so but the
Oh,
next one.
oh, great. I'm just going to make a note about that.
Yes. No, I've exhibited plastic in Quilt National before, so
Ah,
they're definitely game for that.
I think so too. I believe I saw some many years ago. It was so innovative to think about using plastic and tea bags and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
yes,
No,
Quilt
if it's
Nationals.
stitchable, it goes, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and it's more than one layer.
That's
And
right.
yeah, I've got that. In fact, I put a layer of some kind of plain plastic on the back, and
Uh-huh.
I tried to pick nice colors so I can get some color into this.
Yes.
And then I put a layer of that very thin plastic packing material in the middle. So there's a layer of batting, so to
Uh-huh.
speak, in the middle of each.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's great. Alright, so now you're not only making installations with single-use plastic, but you're actually making quilts with it too. So I gotta ask, what are your favorite techniques for using the plastic?
I think straight on sewing. I've tried to use heat to adhere
Uh-huh.
plastics. I've seen wonderful, conglomerations of plastic, and I'll show you what happened to mine. As you can see,
Got a little warped.
it buckled
Yeah,
badly from the heat.
yeah.
Because I'm using different weights of plastic inside, the black was very heavy, and
Mhm,
then some of these mesh things are very light.
mhm.
So it didn't respond well to heat, and I ended up doing some stitching over it. But
Uh-huh.
the other ones are just layered and stitched.
Mhm.
So I think this one has red thread. I was experimenting with different colors of thread
Yeah. It's
along with
interesting to experiment with different colors of thread on top and bottom when you're stitching clear plastics, isn't it? Because you can see
Yes,
the colors.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to write that down. Words of wisdom from the master
Oh,
plastic
stop.
artist. Oh, it's a good one. Because I just use black on the top and the back. So, but stitching worked very well. And
Yeah.
then I can add that element of design that the
Mhm.
stitching gives you.
Yeah,
It gives
exactly.
me a wonderful opportunity to add the design with the stitch.
Yeah.
And that's I love that. I do that on fabric as well as plastic. So
Alright.
it's
Do
very important.
you use, are you using like a regular foot feed dogs up, feed dogs down? What are you doing there?
Regular foot. I believe I probably was using the walking foot.
Mm.
Because I'm working with multiple layers, I'm not sure. I think I was using the walking foot, but I have a new sewing machine that I haven't embarked with. It's an industrial Juki,
Uh-huh.
so it's very basic and very powerful, and it does not have a walking foot, but it has lots of adjustments that I can make. So I'm excited to try that new
Oh,
machine.
interesting. Cool. I
Yeah.
have an industrial Bernina that I really enjoy. It's very, very basic, no walking foot. I've never actually used a walking foot. I think I had one. Somebody gifted me one. I think it's might still be in the box, or I may have given it away. It's just that I've never taken that leap. But yeah, I love using my industrial machine, and usually I do free motion stitching a lot. So I put the feet
Yes.
down and I use an embroidery foot, and
Yes.
that works really well for plastic for me.
Aha, you're using an embroidery foot. I usually well, what is that one that's open? It's
Yeah,
like a
the
darning foot.
the darning foot works as well too. I like the embroidery foot because it's a
Okay.
clear plastic and I can really see where I'm going, but the
Yeah.
darning foot works really well too.
Yeah. Okay, that's another good tip. I learned a lot. I knew we would have something to talk about.
Of course we would. Oh, wow. So do you then have favorite plastics to stitch, the ones that stitch better than others for you?
I love, the heavier packaging for, like, frozen fruit.
Mm,
The colors are intense, and the weight of that plastic is lovely to work with.
yeah.
So that's one of my favorites. But I also really like this crazy mesh. It comes in so many different
It
sizes.
does, and
Yeah.
colors too.
I have bags of it, all, color. I have quite a big studio, which I guess I can't show you that
That's
well.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's yeah, I have, I'm looking at 2 boxes of that mesh bags, but they used to be separated by color. Now they're just, you know, I don't know about you, but when I'm working on projects, I make a big mess. Everything
Yes.
comes out, everything gets pulled out, and I just keep pulling things and putting things back and sort of making a pile of a mess as I'm working on something. And then after I'm done working, I usually try to clean up, and depending on the amount of time I have, it's either a really thorough cleanup where I put everything back where it belongs and separate things by color, or it's just a really quick cleanup that just kind of like same type of materials just go into the same bucket so that I
Yeah.
can have some clear space.
I agree. For me, I've had the option of having an open studio. It's called First Saturday, and
Uh-huh.
it's, all the Lower Mainland is involved in this, and that was great because and I say was because I can no longer do that. I'm in a home, studio in a big townhouse, so
Oh,
we can't have the public, basically.
oh, that's too
Mm.
bad.
But I miss it because it pushed me to clean up. I wanted
Exactly.
I wanted it to look welcoming and tidy and, like a little art gallery kind of,
Yes.
and that was once a month, and very good a good practice. So I'm trying to do that, and I do have little workshops sometimes with a few friends or people coming in, and
Oh,
then
that's
I
wonderful.
yeah, yeah.
Well, I don't know, maybe you can join in with somebody else who has a studio that can give you a part of their studio just for First Saturdays. I know our mutual friend Michelle was telling me about the First Saturdays. She really enjoys it. Maybe you
Yes.
can sneak into her studio. I don't know how close you
Unfortunately, she's over the water. I'd have to take a ferry. She lives
well,
she's
I don't
in
know. It
Victoria.
might be worth it.
It might be. It would be so much fun to do that.
Right?
She and I used to live a few blocks apart. We were in the same neighborhood for
Oh, okay.
years, and we organized our own textile tour between our several buddies and us, and we would run those textile tours, advertise them, and that was so much fun.
Yeah,
I
I
love it.
bet.
I just love open studios because people see how you work, uh,
Exactly. Yeah.
even if they don't see the mountain of mess that
Right.
happens.
Even if you hide the mountain of mess, yeah.
Yeah,
No, I really
but I
love
do
open studios as well. It's just so nice to welcome people in and talk about their stuff, and I love visiting other artist studios as well.
Me too.
seeing their messes and seeing their tools and, it's like I love peeking behind the scenes.
Yes, and this that your blog is doing that as well, I think, you're getting a look into
Oh,
my
yeah, the
story.
podcast, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
the podcast.
No, I think it's
That's great.
wonderful. That's part of the reason why I started it. I love having conversations with other artists and getting into the nitty-gritty of things.
Yeah, it's a connection, it's a community, and usually we're doing this for heartfelt reasons.
Yeah.
It's not usually to make money.
Right. Yeah, that part is very, very difficult. But, yeah,
That's
and we're usually making it in our studio all by ourselves.
yes, that's for sure.
Even I'm in an artist building and, my next door neighbor is not always there, or when she's
Right.
there, I'm not there. So it's not, you don't the community is difficult to come by. And then a lot of us work in our own, guest bedrooms or whatever. So it's
That's right.
difficult to come by the community. So it's nice to
Yeah.
take the opportunity
I
when you
had,
can.
I think, 6 years in a communal, art space here, and there were 16 people at the beginning. It was a gorgeous old building. Loved going there. I just was happy every second I was in the building, and like you say, sometimes it was totally quiet.
Mhm.
I'd have it to myself, and there was a big communal space in the middle, and if there were other artists that wanted to share their time and talk, they'd come out with a cup of coffee or something, and we'd sit together.
Oh, that's
And
wonderful.
it was amazing because I wasn't just a textile artist, I was just one of the artists
Mhm.
and all kinds of people there, and I still have that community. We've stayed, in touch and supportive, community going even
Oh,
though
that's
that
wonderful.
building has been demolished.
Oh,
So,
no. Oh,
yes,
wow.
yeah.
Is
That's
that
why
why
I
you had
had
to move your studio into your home?
exactly. We actually bought this place so that I could have the studio. So we didn't have enough space in the condo that we were in.
Yeah.
And I do need my storage space and
Oh, I know. No, I was spoiled for years. I had a studio in my home. I took over the entire basement,
yes,
and it was quite spacious. I had studio space, I had storage space, I had gallery space. Yes, it was a basement, and the ceilings were a little too low, and the lighting was challenging, but I had space.
wonderful.
Yeah,
That's
so that was great. So now I'm in this artist building and I have this my little cubicle. It may look large behind me, but it's really not. It's I don't know, 8 by 10 or something like that,
that was what mine was too. It
right?
was
And
tiny.
I pay for a storage space in a storage space a few blocks away for the excesses that I have of my materials.
Wow.
You
Yeah,
you got to do what you can because, my new home doesn't allow a space for a studio. So,
right.
yeah. But that's
That's it's a conundrum because there's not a lot of rental space here in this small city for artists.
mm.
So the owner of that studio had just expanded upstairs and she had 30 some artists in there.
Oh,
It
wow.
was just vibrant. It was the most wonderful place. And she has found quite a big office space in the uptown area and opened another communal studio space there. And
Oh.
so she's got some of the same people and some new people.
Mhm.
And I pop in there, and that's a good place for me to do for Saturday. I'm going to talk to Susan
There
about that.
you go.
That
Yeah,
would be fun, that would
yeah.
be great if she has any space extra for me.
That would be great, and maybe you're not the only one who would pop in for open studios. There's an open studio, um, now I participate in the one in this building, but there was one in a town few towns over where they would invite artists who are not in town, or, that don't have studio space in town to into empty storefronts, or even take empty stores in general and would set up several artists in an empty space
I
that
love
they
that.
could get a part of the whole thing, so,
Yes.
yeah.
That's brilliant. The, city of Paducah, Kentucky was dead. It was a coal mining area that would just died off, and they took on the quilt world. They have a huge conference there,
Yeah.
and all the businesses took part. It was unbelievable. Garages, everybody had some kind of quilt display in their windows. It was
Oh,
warming and really worked for them.
Yeah,
They
now
have
some people have moved there permanently.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
They've got the little trolley that took people around for the tours, during the conference.
Uh-huh.
They had, quilt trolleys, you know? So it can be done, and it was very, exciting to see how important art can be in the
Yeah,
economy. You know, it picked up their economy incredibly there.
yeah.
Uh,
No, it's
so the
somebody should
museum there.
yeah, that's right, they do. No, that
Yeah.
somebody should, like, write articles and about that and send it to, um, the city builders or whoever they are, the powers that be, the city mayors, just to show them, like, "This is the power of art. You too
Yes.
can do this in your town."
Yes, that's absolutely true. I'd like to do that with my mayor here. It would be great. He needs a little bit of education in that area.
Right. I mean, I know they're all very busy people and they have a lot on their plates, but
Yeah. Traffic, population, high rises popping up here like mushrooms.
Oh,
In the
wow.
lower mainland, we have a lot of SkyTrain, transit
Uh,
that's just beautiful, and
mm.
everywhere there's a transit stop, there are now high rises, mushrooming I mean, 22 to 50 floor
Oh,
buildings
wow. Yeah.
popping up all around. So I'm working on another series that deals with the difference between the landscape, which is just beautiful here. We have mountains and the ocean, and
Mhm.
then we have these everywhere, you
Big
know, and
skyscraper.
they make so beautiful sculpture, you know, like
They
I
do. So
yeah.
is that a painting, a photograph, or an art quilt? I can't tell.
It's a little of each.
Oh, okay.
This background is hand dyed. Uh,
Okay, yeah.
this part. This is a commercial print that
Oh.
is, actually New York City.
Oh,
You might recognize some of the
well,
buildings.
yeah, I mean, there are some skyscrapers that look very similar whatever, yeah, city you go to.
Yes, they do. So I don't emphasize the New York part. And this fabric was printed with a value gradation from dark at the bottom to very light at the top.
Uh-huh.
So it gave me enormous, possibilities for
Yeah.
placing these in the landscape.
Uh-huh.
So this one, I've added another fabric here in front, and, it's heavily machine quilted, and that's really hard to see on the
Yeah,
camera.
that is hard to see on the screen.
Yeah.
So I'll
Yeah,
put a link. This is on your website?
it is. Yeah.
Okay, great. So everyone can see so the landscapes on your website. They're
Yeah.
really wonderful. It's a sky, a cityscape like mountains and then mountains below. Very, very interesting. Cool.
Yeah, they're just nestled in amongst the I call it the Vista
Yeah.
series.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
they're beautiful little vistas off in the distance, and I'm always getting my husband to stop the car. "Stop!" You know? I have to take that picture. I've just
Right.
got hundreds and there's always more and new ones, and the different times of day,
Mhm.
even in the night, in the dark, they glow, they're white, or they have tons of glittering windows.
Right.
So and they're so in conflict or harmony with nature, and it's that yin yang
Yeah.
balancing act. We have to house people. Everybody wants to live here because it's so beautiful. The
Right.
climate is just
Build but if you build too many buildings, the beauty goes away. It's
it's
unseen.
gone.
It's
Yeah,
blocked.
that's right.
At the
We
very
live
least, it's blocked. In some cases, it's destroyed, unfortunately.
yes, and even the light is cut
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Wow.
we lived that experience. We had a beautiful, s condo 15 floors up looking at the river and towards the ocean. It
Mhm.
was magnificent. The light was incredible, and then as we lived there, 3 new high-rises were built, and there were
Oh, wow.
already some around us.
Oh,
They didn't
wow.
completely block our vision, but they cut off a whole bunch of view corridors around
Yeah.
us. So it was a personal experience, not the best,
Right.
but that was not a good feeling to have your vision narrowing all the time.
Yeah, definitely. So when you work on your art quilts, do you always start with your own photographs?
These are commercial fabrics. Um, but
Right.
yes, as far as the design and inspiration, yes, I do. Sometimes I make up the little vignette or the landscape, but quite often it is from something that I've sketched or seen.
Mhm.
So yeah, I travel with my sketchbook pretty well all the time.
Do you,
Uh,
and you actually sketch in your sketchbook?
I know with the cameras and stuff that we have, but I mean, they're not elegant. They're usually just black and white,
Yeah.
and there's often more text, little notes to myself
Uh-huh.
than there is drawing, but still, it gives me some kind of idea. This
Yeah.
is a little pencil sketch, and it's behind the trunks or behind the
Oh,
stems.
behind the tree
So
trunk.
everything's cut, yeah,
Yeah.
cut up that way,
Yeah.
which I find fascinating. I
Yeah.
love that kind of vertical cut.
Mhm.
And this one is called Drowning in Garbage. And it was from a TV show that was just grim. There's so many good videos of rivers where the
Oh,
population has just dumped their plastics and
yeah. No, it's
they're just
awful.
hanging along the bushes, and it is
Yeah.
just gross.
Yeah, no,
It's kind
you
of
don't have to go far on the on YouTube or whatever to find a whole bunch of those videos.
Yeah, and that's pretty scary. But there's some good river cleanup programs going on. It's astonishing
Yeah.
what's happening as far as cleaning up
Yeah,
these.
no, it's it helps you stay positive, right? Because some
Yes,
I was just talking to someone yesterday and he was so distraught by the lack of action on plastic pollution. Like he was kind of like, I think I'm, he's somewhat of an activist and he was talking about how he's so fed up with it, he doesn't see any progress that he thinks he's going to quit. And I'm like, but you can't quit.
no.
You can't. You gotta keep pushing.
And we
'Cause
have to push politicians.
yeah.
It's big business that, I blame for this.
Oh, totally.
It's not the little people, "Oh, I need my plastic bags." It's big business trying to sell us shit that we don't really need.
Exactly.
Because, I can remember the days before plastic. I'm that old.
Sure.
So and I
Yeah,
can
I
remember,
can too. Yeah.
okay, the first time I saw a plastic bag caught on a barbed wire fence or in a bush, I just thought, "Oh my god, that is so bizarre." And I was only in high school, and I thought, "I'm gonna do artwork. I gotta do this." It's so weird, and the world is being unsettled, and that was in the '60s,
Yeah.
so and it's just become a mountain.
Right.
It's an eruption.
Yeah.
When I was sitting in the gallery with this show, I did a sketch of a atom bomb. And,
Oh,
plastic, construction would be a big circle of garbage, and then going beyond that.
I
And
see a
that's what
huge
the
quilt in there for you.
yeah, I'm thinking about it. I've got the sketch.
Oh,
But
wow.
yes, you're right. I don't wanna dwell on that too much. It can be very, very depressing.
Yeah,
But it does keep me in tune with politics and trying to make influence by our vote.
exactly.
And, these big businesses have to stop. The production of these things has to stop.
Yeah.
And
But
because they're unnecessary, a lot of it is completely
oh,
unnecessary.
completely unnecessary. Like, why would you wanna go and buy a bunch of bananas wrapped in plastic?
I know, and I see then some customers putting their bananas in a plastic bag, and I just think,
Why?
"Oh, please." In fact, my own husband, I've been training him, bananas do not need plastic.
Yeah, but all this depressing stuff is exactly why I try to seek out the positive information out there of,
Yes.
somebody doing something really good or somebody, even on large scale, like you're talking about those river cleanups that happen and they're doing amazing work. There are people out there in communities doing amazing work and we need to, you know, keep talking about them and bringing them into the light because otherwise we're going to drown in the darkness.
Yeah, exactly, and when I had my installation, I had a handout that people could pick up or find online,
Mhm.
and I ended with a group of about 6 or 8 businesses locally that I know that are working positively on the cleanup.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I did wanna leave people with hope,
No,
that
you have to. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. Well, thank you so much, Judy. This has been so much fun.
yeah, it's such a pleasure to meet my hero.
Oh, stop it. Well, I am delighted that Michelle introduced us, and I'll even
Oh,
link to Michelle on here as well. I'll put the links to everyone
Michelle,
that we've talked about here, and yeah, this has
this
been
has
so
just
much
been
fun.
delightful. And it's again a pleasure to talk about my art and to hear about yours and get a few good tips from you. Thank you so much, Natalia.
You're so welcome, and I look forward to your next jellyfish. Oh wait, what do they call them? Gel. Oh,
Sea jellies.
sea jellies. That was it.
Yeah.
I look forward to your next double the size sea jelly installation at a
I'll,
maritime center near you.
yeah, I'll send you an installation picture.
I can't wait.
Okay.
All right. Thank
Thanks
you.
for this great opportunity.
Thanks for listening in today. And please take the time to rate the show, leave a review. I would really, really appreciate it. Or share an episode with a friend. That would be awesome. Thank you. This podcast was created, produced, and edited by me, Natalia Korover. Theme music by R.C. Gaida. Find out more about me at artbynatalia.com. Find out about my community at repurposercollective.com and about my education initiatives at ecoloop.art. Thank you for listening. Please rate and review and share this podcast with anyone that you think might like it. Thanks so much.